In the third year of my marriage to Oliver, he made sure that everyone hid the fact that he had a younger, more beautiful woman outside our home. Everyone around me would say, "You are his first love, his weakness." But when he was drunk, he would laugh and say, "Laura, after marrying her, you realize she's just ordinary." The man who, at 17, had sworn to love me for a lifetime was now holding a young woman in his arms, whispering, "She's so boring. Of course I love you more, darling." The day I left, no one noticed anything strange. The maid smiled and asked if I was going out for tea or shopping. I smiled back and nodded slightly. No need to prepare dinner tonight. When I hear that his heart belongs to another, I destroy it with fire. I burn it to ashes and let the wind scatter them. Oliver didn't know that the ordinary Laura was a stubborn woman. In her dictionary, the word forgiveness didn't exist. Chapter 01. I wore my coat, and in the small handbag were liver care pills. The hallway was long, the light reflecting off the paintings in a kaleidoscope of colors. Scattered shadows fell all over the floor. From the room at the end, the sounds of laughter grew louder. Oliver had reserved this entire floor for years. No one else could approach, so they didn't even bother closing the door. My heel caught in the thick carpet, and I stumbled slightly. As I bent down, the necklace around my neck suddenly snapped. The large and small pearls rolled across the floor. A strange pain pierced my heart. I was about to kneel to pick up the pearls when I heard Oliver's voice. "Come on, I'm not as fickle as you think. My first love, my white moon, the love of my life is none other than my wife." He was probably drunk, his voice laced with intoxication, full of pride and satisfaction. I couldn't help but press my lips together. Holding the cold pearls, my heart seemed to relax, as if relieved. But unfortunately, Oliver sighed suddenly. "After marrying her, you realize she's just ordinary." My hand clenched tightly. The pearls dug painfully into the tender flesh of my palm, and my smile froze on my lips. "And what about me, Oliver?" A soft female voice suddenly sounded, full of complaint and resentment. "You say your wife is the love of your life, but what am I to you? Last night, you told me you loved me more." The men burst out laughing. "Silly girl, do you really believe what a man says in bed? Besides, it's normal for a man to love his wife. Why are you, the mistress, competing? Oliver, look at them." The girl's voice broke into tears. It was so fragile and pitiful that it could move anyone. Chapter 02. That's enough. Why are you teasing her so much? Teasing? Isn't she just a mistress? She's my official girlfriend, so watch what you say, Oliver said in a low tone, sounding a little annoyed. "No way, bro." "Are you serious?" Oliver replied casually. "Yeah. She's been with me since she was 18. I have to be responsible." "Beast. You took advantage of her the moment she came of age. Aren't you afraid your wife will make a scene?" Oliver laughed. "She depends on me. What can she fight me with? But you'd better shut up. I love my wife, and don't want her to feel bad." "You love your wife? And what about me?" The young girl pouted, unwilling to let it go. Oliver pulled her into his arms to comfort her. "Is this really worth crying about?" The girl sobbed, her voice sweet and clingy. "Oliver, I want you to say you love me more than anyone, even if it's a lie. I would still be willing." "All right, darling. She's so boring. Of course, I love you more." I stood in the shadows outside the door and suddenly smiled. The man who once swore to love me for a lifetime was now comforting a younger girl. But I didn't even feel like confronting him anymore. Once a cheater, never trustworthy again. I turned and walked back down the long hallway the way I had come. The 17-year-old Oliver had once secretly carved my name into his desk. He said, "Oliver loves Laura and will love her forever." But his forever lasted only a fleeting 10 years. Chapter 03. That morning, when Oliver returned, I was already downstairs having breakfast. He rushed in with a large bouquet of flowers and a gift in his arms. His face was full of guilt and remorse. "I'm sorry, darling. The meeting ran too long last night, and I couldn't come home. When we got married, he promised that no matter how busy he was, he would never spend a night away from home. But in the past 6 months, he'd been coming home later and later. And this time, he didn't return at all. I put down my chopsticks and looked at him. His suit, shirt, and tie had all been changed. The scent on him was clean and fresh. He had clearly gone to great lengths to cover his tracks. He placed the bouquet on the table, came closer, and tried to kiss me. Darling, I swear this was the first and last time. I raised my hand to block him and asked, word for word, did you stay at the office last night? Oliver didn't hesitate for a moment. Yes, look, I even changed into the clothes you prepared for me. As he spoke, he grabbed my shoulders, watching me cautiously. Darling, are you angry? Today I'll spend the whole day with you. I won't go to the office, okay? I looked at him, seeing my reflection in his pupils. His gaze was steady, without a hint of guilt or hesitation. And I too could completely hide my sadness.
No.
I brushed his hands aside. Let's eat first. But barely had he sat down when his phone rang. I watched him frown and hang up. Yet it rang again almost immediately. He hesitated for a few seconds, then hung up again. A message came in. Oliver checked it, and his expression tensed deeply. Laura, something urgent came up at the office. Go ahead. No, it's fine. I'll have someone else handle it. I promise to spend the whole day with you. He said it, but his face betrayed his unease. It's all right. Work is more important. Go. I looked at him calmly, my pain already numb and indifferent. Oliver hesitated only a moment before getting up. I'll try to come back as soon as possible. I nodded with a soft watching him leave in a hurry and drive off. Only after he was gone did I realize the tears on my face had turned cold. I called my best friend. Roma, could you help me schedule a medical checkup at your hospital today? Chapter 04. When my medical results came back, I let out a sigh of relief. My body was still clean. And I wasn't pregnant. When I married Oliver, my health hadn't been good, which was why we never had children. But to be sure, I had a full examination. Doctor, I'd like to know, has my recovery been? Receiving a positive response, much of the weight in my heart eased. Holding the report, I walked out. As I turned the corner in the hallway, I heard Oliver's name. Oliver, if I really am pregnant, can I keep the baby? I stopped, staring at the two figures not far away. Oliver held a cigarette between his fingers, frowning impatiently. The young woman had no makeup on, tears streaming down her cheeks as she clung to his sleeve, pleading and shaking. Oliver let out a cold laugh. My wife hasn't even had a child yet. What makes you think you're the priority? But this is my first baby. I can't bear to lose it. I promise to behave. I won't cause any trouble. And I'll make sure your wife never finds out about me or the baby. Oliver patted her cheek with the hand holding the cigarette. Don't be naive, darling. I won't let you have the child. Be good. End the pregnancy, and I'll buy you a house. But if you don't, Zoe, let me be clear, there are plenty of pretty, obedient girls at your university. I could sleep with a different one every day without a problem. You're not irreplaceable. The girl froze at his words, her tear-streaked face going completely pale. I'll do as you say, Oliver. Please don't abandon me. Good girl. Go get the checkup, all right. I will, but Oliver, you once said your wife's health was poor and that she couldn't have children. If I really am pregnant, could you let her raise the baby as her own? I wouldn't fight or cause trouble. Would that be all right? Oliver fell silent for a moment. Get the checkup first. We'll talk later. The girl sobbed and went inside. Oliver finished his cigarette and stubbed it out. As he turned, I pretended I had just arrived. Seeing me, he looked surprised for a moment, but quickly shifted his expression to one of concern and care. Darling, what are you doing here at the hospital? Are you feeling unwell or hurt? Chapter 05. Oliver grabbed my arm with an expression of deep concern. Why didn't you call me? You came to the hospital alone. He looked me up and down, eyes filled with anxious worry. It was as if, after 10 years, his love for me had never waned. But my hands and feet were growing cold, as if the chill seeped into my very bones. How could Oliver act so lovingly? While he called me darling with such devotion, his mistress was just a few meters away in another room taking a pregnancy test. And yet, he could stand in front of me without the slightest crack in his facade. So much, so that I could no longer tell who was the real Oliver? I'm fine, I said. I just came to visit a friend. He exhaled deeply and wrapped me in a tight embrace. You scared me so much, darling. Oliver, do you really care about me? I asked softly, looking at him. Of course I care. He hugged me tighter. When we got married, remember how poor your health was? I spent 3 years caring for you little by little until you got better. Darling, you don't know, seeing you here nearly scared the life out of me. If anything happened to you, how could I go on living? I wanted to laugh, but the corners of my mouth were stiff. My lips trembled uncontrollably, as if I had swallowed hot oil. I asked him, then why are you here at the hospital? His grip on my arm tightened slightly. Oh, I came to visit an elderly relative who's hospitalized. But this was the obstetrics and gynecology department. Still, I didn't expose his lie. Chapter 06. On the way home, Oliver's phone wouldn't stop ringing. He simply turned it off. Even if the King of Heaven calls today, I'm staying home with you. I said nothing, just stared at the scenes passing by the window. The road home passed by our old high school. Familiar scenes that were once so sweet now felt like honey-coated blades stabbing into my heart. My vision blurred for a moment. In that haze, I seemed to see our past selves, Oliver, and me. Laura, please don't be mad, okay? I beg you, just listen to me. Let me explain just one thing. All right, one thing. 2 things then. Just 2, okay? Young Oliver tugged at my sleeve with a mischievous smile, refusing to let go. Go away, Oliver. Don't cry, Laura. Hit me if you want, hit me as hard as you can, but don't cry, all right? The phone in my bag suddenly vibrated, pulling me back to reality. I took it out. The message was from an unknown number. He says your health is poor, and you can never satisfy him. 3 years of marriage, and you've never changed positions. He's tired of it. He doesn't like using protection, and told me that if I get pregnant, I should just have the baby. After all, you can't even get pregnant. You're worthless. Why do you keep clinging to him? Suddenly, I laughed. Oliver looked at me curiously. Darling, what's so funny? I locked my screen and replied calmly, my best friend just reminded me about our tea date. I completely forgot, and now she's scolding me. Oliver immediately relaxed. So, are you going? Of course, or Roma won't forgive me for 3 days. You should also head to the office and do some work. Oliver frowned. I'm starting to get jealous of Roma. You always prefer her. I don't want you to go. Wouldn't it be better for us to spend time alone? I turned to look at him, but he was already signaling to turn the car around, ready to take me somewhere else. I smiled slightly and looked away. There will be other chances. Exactly, we have a lifetime together. I won't fight with Roma this time. He dropped me off at a private club and then drove away hurriedly. Half an hour later, Zoe sent me another message. He left you alone again? See? He told me that every time I cry, he just can't resist softening. By the way, I'm pregnant. He said I should keep the baby. He even mentioned he likes daughters, but I want to give him a son. I did the math. This baby is definitely a boy. It's such a shame, though. The doctor said we can't have sex during the early stages of pregnancy. I haven't even been able to wear the new lingerie he bought me. He's always had such a strong appetite, and since you can't satisfy him, he must be very frustrated. I didn't reply. Instead, I took screenshots of every message she had sent me. My hands trembled slightly as I did it. Maybe it was because Oliver had acted so convincingly all these years. Or maybe I had just been too naive, blindly trusting him. So when this ridiculous, decadent side of him came to light, I still couldn't fully control my emotions. To think that the tenderness he showed me in bed, which once moved me so much, was completely fake. He had long grown tired of our gentle, restrained intimacy. When I thought his restraint was love, reality slapped me in the face. The decline in our intimacy wasn't out of love or care, but because he no longer enjoyed it and didn't even bother to pretend. Before going home, I called an old mentor. Laura? My dear, why has it taken you so long to call me? Professor, does your research team still need people? I'd like to join. Are you sure your health can handle it? When I graduated, I had wanted to join. My professor had been very eager to have me on the team, but my health had been too fragile back then. The research team traveled all over North and South, and abroad. The conditions were often harsh, with makeshift meals and nights spent outdoors as routine. I just had a medical checkup. The doctor said as long as I'm careful, I'll be fine. And your husband? Is he okay with this? Professor, you should know that if you join us, you'll spend years traveling. And many of our projects are confidential. You'll barely have contact with your family. Professor, I've already decided to get a divorce. Did he do something to hurt you? I smiled, swallowing my tears. Yes. He was unfaithful. 10 years of love, are you sure about this? Professor, do you remember what you told me when you decided to divorce? When his heart belongs to another, destroy it with fire. Burn it to ashes and let the wind scatter them. My eyes burned red, tears streaming down my face. Professor, you taught me. Of course I'm just like you. Good, Laura. Then I'll be waiting for you. Waiting for you to join us. Chapter 07. This was probably the first time since we got married that I asked Oliver for money. On the other end of the phone, he laughed cheerfully. Darling, isn't all my money yours anyway? You can use my card however you like. This is different, I insisted, unusually stubborn. All right. I'll have Pablo transfer it to you immediately. Oliver, I'm not taking your money without reason. I also have a gift for you. In 3 days, go to the reception office at our old high school. Look for the old janitor. Do you remember him? He'll give you something. Oliver chuckled at my words. How could I forget? I transferred there in my last year, but during the first 2 years, I must have written you hundreds of love letters. He was the one who helped deliver them all. I smiled too. Yes, so in 3 days, don't forget to pick it up. I won't, darling. I'm already excited to see it. Chapter 08. As soon as the money Oliver sent arrived, I anonymously donated it to my mentor's research team. I printed the divorce agreement and all the message screenshots. I sealed them in an envelope and personally delivered it to the reception office at our old high school. The broken pearl necklace and the first ring he ever gave, May melted them with my own hands in a workshop and discarded the remains. Along with them, I burned all the countless love letters he had once written me. On the last morning, I had breakfast with Oliver as usual. And as always, I saw him off when he left for work. Oliver looked apologetic. I had planned to take you to the hot springs today, but once again, I've broken my promise. It's okay. Work is more important, I said with a faint smile. Go on, don't delay your work. Oliver looked at me with a mix of tenderness and guilt. Darling, you're always so understanding, so good to me. All these years, I've been so busy with work that I haven't spent enough time with you. I looked at him in silence, my thoughts drifting away. The boy who once warmed my cold hands in the winter morning mist, the man who had once knelt before his parents for an entire day to win their blessing to marry me. 10 years together, and he still looked as young and handsome as ever. His love for me had been real. His betrayal was real too. His guilt and pity were genuine. But so was his restless heart, addicted to the thrill of forbidden love. I knew I could choose to remain blind and silent, to go on being Mrs. Oliver for the rest of my life. No one could take that title away from me. But I no longer wanted to be Mrs. Oliver. I wanted to be Laura again. Suddenly, Oliver stepped forward and embraced me. Darling, I love you so much. Wait for me tonight. Let's have dinner together. I don't know how I managed to force a smile, nor how I held back the unnecessary, redundant questions. Fortunately, his phone rang again, demanding his attention like an urgent call. I gently pushed him away. Go on. Don't keep them waiting. Reluctantly, he turned and left. But his steps grew quicker as he walked away. I smiled faintly, turned, and went upstairs. As always, I changed into my gardening clothes. At noon, I had a simple lunch. After a short nap, I got up and changed into clothes for going out. I took a bag, placing all my important documents and belongings inside. As I came down the stairs, the maid smiled and asked, Madam, are you going shopping or for tea? I nodded slightly, smiling as well. Yes. And there's no need to prepare dinner tonight. He wouldn't be coming for dinner. And I would never return. Chapter 09. The driver dropped me off at the club I used to frequent and left. I walked down the stairs where the car my professor had arranged was already waiting at the corner. The car had classified plates, impossible for ordinary people to trace. Clutching my bag tightly, I crossed the street and got in. As the door closed, my phone rang. The name flashing on the screen was Oliver. I didn't hang up, but deep down, I knew this would be the last time I spoke to him. Darling, I'm so embarrassed to tell you this. Oliver's voice was full of regret and guilt. I have an important engagement tonight when I really can't cancel. I won't be able to have dinner with you at home, but I promise I'll come back early tonight to be with you, okay? Darling, please don't be upset. I've already sent Pablo to pick up the gift you asked for. You're going to love it when you see it. Holding the phone, I looked out the car window at the seemingly endless street. Beyond the traffic's hustle and bustle, there was a quiet emptiness. That figure I had cherished in my heart for 10 years, the boy in the blue and white striped uniform, vanished completely from my heart at that moment. I knew with absolute certainty that I no longer loved him. Darling, why aren't you saying anything? Are you upset? Oliver's cautious voice came through the phone. Forget it. I'll cancel. I won't go. I'll have dinner with you at home tonight. There's no need. It's fine, I replied. Lowering my gaze, I noticed the empty space on my ring finger. Go ahead and do your work. I'm having dinner with Roma tonight. Then I'll try to come back as soon as possible, all right? If it's too late, stay near the office. You don't need to come back. No matter how late it is, I'll come home. I said nothing more. Oliver spoke a few more words before hastily ending the call. I put the phone back in my bag. As the car swayed gently along the road, I slowly closed my eyes. Chapter 10. Oliver stood by the hallway window, a cigarette dangling from his lips. The sky outside was pitch black as night fell. Lara's health had never been good, and her routine was always consistent. By now, she should already be asleep. When Zoe came out of the examination room, eyes red and swollen, Oliver had already stubbed out his cigarette. He looked at her coldly. What did the results say? Some slight bleeding. The doctor recommended as much bed rest as possible this month. Then don't go to school. Stay home and rest. Love, will you stay with me? Zoe clung to his arm, her tone full of complaint. Oliver frowned and pulled his arm away. Haven't I told you not to call me that? There's no one here. I thought it would be okay. Enough. I'll tell the driver to take you home. You're not staying with me? I feel really bad today. I'm scared the bleeding will get worse. Didn't the doctor give you medicine? Take it and rest. Oliver walked straight to the elevator. I'm not a doctor. There's no point in me staying. Zoe bit her lip, holding back her tears once again. But afraid of irritating Oliver, she swallowed them and followed him into the elevator. Oliver, just as she was about to get into the car, Zoe couldn't hold back anymore and turned to call out to him. Oliver checked his watch, clearly annoyed. What now? Will you come tomorrow? Didn't the doctor say no sex this month? Oliver raised a brow. There's no point in seeing you. This month I need to spend time with my wife. You'd better behave. Zoe, full of anger and sadness, let her tears fall freely. Thinking of her pregnancy, Oliver felt compelled to offer a few words of comfort. Rest well. I'll come when I have time. Zoe watched him get into the car and drive off without looking back. Her tears cooled on her cheeks, her jaw aching from how tightly she clenched it. She couldn't understand. She was young and beautiful. How could she lose to that sickly wife? Every time she thought of it, hatred burned in her bones. And yet, she couldn't let go of Oliver or everything he gave her. So she swallowed her anger and endured it. Chapter 11. Oliver's car stopped in front of the house. The maid came out to greet him, and he asked as usual, Has the madam gone to bed? But as she took his coat, the maid looked surprised. Madam isn't with you? Oliver froze. What did you say? The night was deep, with only the house lights illuminating the darkness. Madam went out this afternoon for shopping and tea. When the driver offered to pick her up tonight, she said it wasn't necessary because she'd be dining with you outside. The more the maid spoke, the more nervous she became, her voice trembling. Before she left this afternoon, Madam told us not to prepare dinner tonight. Suddenly, Oliver stepped forward and grabbed the maid by the collar. What else did she say? Don't skip a single word. Tell me everything clearly. The maid turned pale with fear. And no, she didn't say anything else. Just that we didn't need to prepare dinner. Oliver abruptly released her, pushing her aside. He rushed upstairs, pulling out his phone to call Roma. "Are you with Laura?" "No, we didn't meet today. But this afternoon, Laura said she had dinner plans with you tonight." Oliver's voice was incredibly calm. Even he couldn't believe how steady he sounded. But no one saw how his hand, holding the phone, was trembling uncontrollably. "Laura did call me," Roma admitted. "But I had surgery today, so we agreed to meet another time." Oliver wasn't even sure how the call ended. He dialed numbers of other close friends of Lara's. But all of them said they hadn't been in contact with her today, nor had they seen her. Standing in front of the master bedroom, Oliver found the door locked. For a moment, he didn't have the courage to open it. How, in his foolish hope, had he thought that Lara, someone so intelligent, would know anything about his actions? But when had she found out? And how much did she know? Could he even hope for forgiveness? A surge of panic brought back memories from years ago. Back then, they had been in college. Through club activities, he had grown close to a female classmate who was secretly in love with him, something many had noticed. Lara had mentioned it to him twice, but he hadn't taken it seriously. After all, he loved Lara so much that no other woman could compare. Later, at a club dinner, he drank in place of that classmate and escorted her back to her dorm. Lara hadn't argued with him. Instead, she had broken up with him on the spot. His world had crumbled. During those 6 months apart, he couldn't remember how he had survived. It had taken immense effort and pleading to convince Lara to give him a second chance. Now, as he opened the bedroom door, his hand was shaking violently. The room was completely dark. The bed was untouched and perfectly made. Empty. Even the subtle traces of her presence had vanished. Oliver rushed into the room, frantically opening every door he could find. But all the rooms were empty. With trembling hands, he dialed her number. The call connected, but no one answered. Forcing himself to stay calm, Oliver lit a cigarette and took a deep drag. He quickly searched for Pablo's number and called. "Pablo, send someone to find her. Start immediately. Investigate. What do you want us to look for, Mr. Oliver?" Oliver gave him the address of the club Lara had gone to earlier that day. Find out where she went after leaving the club, where she is now, and who she's been in contact with recently. Pablo, check her documents, airports, train stations, bus terminals. Don't miss a single place. And track her phone location. Let me know as soon as you hear anything. Chapter 12. Oliver turned around and drove straight to the airport. There weren't many places she could go. Other than her small hometown a few hundred kilometers away, there was the city where her best friend from college had settled. Oliver tried to calm himself. He kept telling himself he had always been discreet. He had warned his friends, making sure none dared to say too much in front of her. Zoe wouldn't dare either. So maybe Lara had only heard some vague rumors. Maybe it was because he'd been coming home late too often lately, spending too little time with her, breaking some promises. Perhaps she was upset and just wanted to teach him a lesson. Things weren't like before anymore. Now they were married, their interests tightly bound together. Her health wasn't good, and she had been staying home to recover. Without him, it was like a bird released from a golden cage. She wouldn't survive long. Oliver kept repeating these thoughts to comfort himself, but they didn't ease his anxiety. His heart pounded the entire way, his insides churning as if his heart were being roasted over flames, tortured by uncertainty. At a red light, he dialed her number again. Still no answer. As he neared the airport, Pablo called. "Madam left the club around 4 p.m. But all the video on that street is blocked, so we couldn't trace her movements. We also checked the airport and train stations, no record of her traveling. Mr. Oliver, it's possible Madam is still in the city." Oliver gripped the steering wheel tightly, exhaling a sudden breath of relief. "Keep looking. No matter what, find her. And her phone location? Have you tracked it?" "We couldn't. It seems Madam's phone location has been deliberately disabled or altered." A loud buzzing filled Oliver's mind, going completely blank. Pablo kept talking, but Oliver didn't hear a word. Suddenly, he remembered what Lara had said when she asked for money that day. She had mentioned preparing a gift for him, left at their old school's reception office. She told him to pick it up 3 days later tomorrow. But Oliver couldn't wait another second. Chapter 13. When Oliver arrived at the school at full speed, It was already past midnight. The reception office lights were off. Without hesitation, he got out of the car and knocked on the door forcefully. Suddenly, a cold sensation touched the tip of his nose. Instinctively, Oliver raised his hand to wipe it, only to feel the icy touch of snowflakes. It was the season's first snowfall in the capital. It had also been during a first snowfall like this that he and Lara had fallen in love. Standing amid the thickening snow, Oliver was frozen, unable to react for a long while. It wasn't until the old guard called him several times that he finally snapped out of it. What I handed him was a simple brown envelope.njoen ý nghĩa gốc, mạch truyện mượt mà, liền mạch, giàu cảm xúc, đúng phong cách kể chuyện du tuyết. When he took it, it felt as if he were holding a burning coal. Instinctively, he wanted to throw it away. Maybe he already knew what was inside. Maybe he simply didn't want to face it. But in the end, he opened it. The first thing he saw were the bold words, divorce agreement. On the last page was her handwritten signature and fingerprint. Below that were printed chat records. Aside from that, she didn't leave him a single word. And yet, it seemed that everything she needed to say or do was already clear. With just one glance at the chat records, Oliver crumpled the paper in his fist. He offered a cigarette to the old guard, apologizing and thanking him with forced politeness. Then, without hesitation, he drove straight to Zoe's house. When he opened the door, Zoe, still drowsy, lit up with joy and ran to hug him. Oliver raised his hand and slapped her so hard she was left stunned. Without saying a word, with a cold expression, he struck her again and again. Zoe's face swelled, her lips split, blood dripping down. She could no longer stand, collapsing to the floor, clutching her abdomen, sobbing and begging for mercy. Oliver looked down at her with icy indifference. Then, without a trace of pity, he kicked her in the stomach. Zoe screamed in pain, nearly fainting, writhing on the floor, holding her abdomen. Blood flowed between her legs, staining the white carpet red. But Oliver wasn't finished. He bent down, grabbed Zoe by the collar, and nearly lifted her off the floor. "What do you think you are?" He squeezed her swollen face, so hard it seemed he could dislocate her jaw. Her once beautiful features were now twisted in a terrifying grimace. But his voice remained eerily calm and cold. "A woman who sells herself, daring to bother my wife? I let you keep the baby only because I didn't want my wife to suffer. Do you think being pregnant makes you special, Zoe? Who gave you the nerve to upset my wife and make her angry?" Zoe's vision darkened as waves of pain sliced through her abdomen like spinning knives. She was terrified, full of regret. Why had she been so greedy? Why had she dared to imagine taking the place of Mrs. Oliver? If she had only quietly had the baby, wouldn't she have enjoyed a life of wealth and comfort? "I won't do it again. Oliver, I swear I won't. Please, save the baby. The baby is dying, it's too late." Oliver shoved her aside with utter disdain. "Zoe, you'd better pray to the heavens that my wife forgives me and comes home. Because if she doesn't, your life will truly be ruined." "Oliver, this is your child too." Zoe's body convulsed in pain as she lay helpless on the floor, struggling in agony. Her bloody hands reached out desperately for Oliver. But he stepped back, coldly watching her writhe and finally lose consciousness from the pain. Only then did he make a call. "Take her to the hospital. Just make sure she doesn't die." Without another glance, Oliver turned and left the room. When he reached the ground floor, the snow had already formed a thin white layer. Dressed only in a shirt and trousers, Oliver didn't feel the cold. He dialed Lara's number again, still no answer. Lowering his gaze, he looked at the wedding ring on his finger. Then suddenly, he remembered Lara hadn't worn her wedding ring for days. That day at the hospital, she must have seen everything, heard everything. And yet, at that moment, she hadn't confronted him, hadn't shed a single tear. How deeply must he have disappointed her? Oliver didn't dare imagine it. Just as he couldn't find the words to describe how he felt at that moment. Chapter 14. I followed my professor to a small village in the northwest, thousands of kilometers away. The conditions were rough and the schedule packed. My professor worried my health wouldn't hold up. But after getting through the initial discomfort, I gradually adapted to the fast-paced life and work. I got a new phone and a different number. However, I kept my old phone active, though I left it at home and didn't carry it with me. On the old phone, almost every day there were calls and messages from Oliver. But I didn't answer or read a single one. After arriving in the Northwest, I called Roma and briefly explained what had happened with Oliver. Roma was furious, cursing Oliver for a full 10 minutes on the phone. No wonder you disappeared without saying anything. Laura, Oliver is going crazy looking for you. He even came to the hospital and cornered me several times. But honestly, I don't know where you went, so it's useless for him to pressure me. He's also asked nearly everyone you were close to. I reminded Roma, if he asks again, just tell him you don't know anything. I know, don't worry. I won't let him bother you. But Laura, are you going to come back? Of course. I still have to return and finalize the divorce. What if he refuses to sign the divorce papers? I laughed. It doesn't matter. I'll travel all over, he won't be able to find me. Let him wear himself out if he wants. Oliver's family won't allow it. He's their only son and has an inheritance to claim. After the call, some young colleagues came to invite me to dinner. The meal was a fragrant, steaming lamb stew. Back in Beijing, I had always been careful with my diet due to my poor health, rarely eating beef or lamb, afraid it would be too heavy. But now, adapting to the local customs, I felt more energetic than ever. Even my professor joked, "You look much healthier these days. Not like when I first saw you, your face was so pale back then." It's all because I'm happy to be here with you, eating well and sleeping better. I replied playfully, holding my bowl and leaning on her shoulder with a grin.
Cuando lo tomó, sintió como si estuviera sosteniendo un carbón al rojo vivo. Instintivamente quiso tirarlo. Quizás ya sabía lo que contenía. Quizás simplemente no quería enfrentarlo. Pero al final, lo abrió. Lo primero que vio fueron las palabras en negrita, acuerdo de divorcio. En la última página estaba su firma escrita a mano y su huella dactilar. Debajo de eso había registros impresos de los chats. Aparte de eso, no le dejó ni una sola palabra. Y aún así, parecía que todo lo que necesitaba decir o hacer ya estaba claro. Con solo un vistazo a los registros de chat, Oliver arrugó el papel en su puño. Ofreció un cigarrillo al viejo guardia, disculpándose y agradeciéndole con una cortesía forzada. Luego, sin dudarlo, condujo directamente a casa de Zoe. Cuando abrió la puerta, Zoe, aún somnolienta, se iluminó de alegría y corrió a abrazarlo. Oliver levantó la mano y la abofeteó tan fuerte que quedó aturdida. Sin decir una palabra, con el rostro frío, volvió a golpearla una y otra vez. El rostro de Zoe se hinchó, sus labios se partieron, la sangre comenzó a gotear. Ya no pudo mantenerse en pie y colapsó en el suelo, sujetándose el abdomen, sollozando y suplicando piedad. Oliver la miraba desde arriba con una indiferencia helada. Luego, sin un atisbo de piedad, le dio una patada en el vientre. Zoe gritó de dolor, casi desmayándose, retorciéndose en el suelo mientras se sujetaba el abdomen. La sangre fluía entre sus piernas, tiñendo de rojo la alfombra blanca. Pero Oliver no había terminado. Se inclinó, la agarró por el cuello de la camisa y casi la levantó del suelo. ¿Qué te crees que eres? Le apretó el rostro hinchado tan fuerte que parecía que le podría dislocar la mandíbula. Sus rasgos, que alguna vez fueron hermosos, ahora estaban torcidos en una mueca aterradora. Pero su voz seguía siendo inquietantemente calmada y fría. Una mujer que se vende y se atreve a molestar a mi esposa. Te dejé tener al bebé solo porque no quería que mi esposa sufriera. ¿Crees que estar embarazada te hace especial, Zoe? ¿Quién te dio el valor para molestar a mi esposa y enfadarla? La visión de Zoe se oscurecía mientras oleadas de dolor cortaban su abdomen como cuchillos girando dentro de ella. Estaba aterrorizada, llena de arrepentimiento. ¿Por qué había sido tan codiciosa? ¿Por qué se había atrevido a imaginar ocupar el lugar de la señora de Oliver? Si tan solo hubiera tenido al bebé en silencio, ¿no habría disfrutado de una vida de riqueza y comodidad? No lo volveré a hacer, Oliver, te juro que no lo haré. Por favor, salva al bebé. El bebé se está muriendo, es demasiado tarde. Oliver la empujó con absoluto desprecio. Zoe, será mejor que reces al cielo para que mi esposa me perdone y vuelva a casa. Porque si no lo hace, tu vida estará verdaderamente arruinada. Oliver, este también es tu hijo. El cuerpo de Zoe se convulsionaba de dolor mientras yacía indefensa en el suelo, luchando en agonía. Sus manos ensangrentadas intentaban alcanzar desesperadamente a Oliver. Pero él retrocedió, observándola fríamente mientras se retorcía y finalmente perdía el conocimiento por el dolor. Solo entonces hizo una llamada.
Llévenla al hospital.
Solo asegúrense de que no muera. Sin dedicarle otra mirada, Oliver se dio la vuelta y salió de la habitación. Cuando llegó a la planta baja, la nieve ya había formado una fina capa blanca en el suelo. Vestido solo con una camisa y pantalones, Oliver no sentía el frío. Marcó de nuevo el número de Lara, seguía sin respuesta. Bajó la mirada y observó el anillo de bodas en su dedo. Entonces, de repente, recordó, hacía días que Lara no llevaba su anillo de bodas. Ese día en el hospital debió haberlo visto todo. Haberlo oído todo. Y aún así, en ese momento, no lo confrontó. No derramó ni una lágrima. ¿Cuánto debía haberla decepcionado? Oliver no se atrevía a imaginarlo. De la misma manera que no podía encontrar palabras para describir cómo se sentía en ese momento. Capítulo 14. Seguí a mi profesora hasta un pequeño pueblo en el noroeste, a miles de kilómetros de distancia. Las condiciones eran precarias y el horario estaba lleno. Mi profesora temía que mi salud no aguantara. Pero tras superar las incomodidades iniciales, me fui adaptando poco a poco a la vida y al ritmo acelerado del trabajo. Conseguí un teléfono nuevo y un número diferente. Sin embargo, mantuve mi viejo teléfono encendido y el número activo, aunque lo dejé en casa y no lo llevaba conmigo. En el viejo teléfono, casi todos los días había llamadas y mensajes de Oliver. Pero no contesté ni leí ninguno. Después de llegar al noroeste, llamé a Roma y le expliqué brevemente lo que había sucedido con Oliver. Roma estaba furiosa, maldiciendo a Oliver por teléfono durante 10 minutos completos. Con razón desapareciste sin decir nada. Lara, Oliver está como loco buscándote. Incluso vino al hospital y me acorraló varias veces. Pero de verdad no sé a dónde te fuiste, así que es inútil que me presione. También ha preguntado a casi todos tus compañeros cercanos. Le recordé a Roma, si vuelve a preguntarte, solo dile que no sabes nada. Lo sé, no te preocupes. No dejaré que te moleste. Pero Lara, ¿vas a volver? Por supuesto. Todavía tengo que regresar y finalizar el divorcio. ¿Y si se niega a firmar los papeles del divorcio? Me reí. No importa. Viajaré por todos lados, no podrá encontrarme. Que se desgaste si quiere. La familia de Oliver no lo permitirá. Es su único hijo y tiene un legado que heredar. Después de terminar la llamada, algunos compañeros jóvenes vinieron a invitarme a cenar. La cena fue un guiso de cordero fragante y humeante. En Beijing, siempre había sido cuidadosa con mi dieta debido a mi mala salud, rara vez comía carne de res o cordero, preocupada de que fuera demasiado pesada. Pero ahora, adaptándome a las costumbres locales, me sentía más enérgica que nunca. Incluso mi profesora bromeó, te ves mucho más saludable estos días. No como cuando te vi por primera vez, tu rostro estaba tan pálido entonces. Es todo porque estoy feliz de estar contigo, comiendo bien y durmiendo mejor, respondí en tono juguetón, sosteniendo mi cuenco y apoyándome en su hombro con una sonrisa.
Oliver.
Ryan lo miró, su mirada era como escarcha, fría y resuelta. Si hubiera sabido hace 5 años qué pedazo de basura eras, me la habría llevado sin importar el costo, aunque me odiara o me culpara. ¿Y qué derecho tienes para arrebatármela? O tal vez eres solo un masoquista al que le gusta lo que otros ya usaron. Ryan, de repente, levantó su mano ensangrentada y lo golpeó con fuerza en la mandíbula. Sus ojos ardían de rojo mientras miraba a Oliver. Espero con ansias ver cómo te llega tu merecido. Capítulo 17. Oliver nunca creyó realmente en el karma. Pero cuando finalmente viajó miles de kilómetros hasta ese pequeño pueblo cubierto de arena solo para ver a Ryan encontrar a Lara en el desierto antes que él, de repente lo entendió. Su karma había llegado. Rápido, implacable y completamente inesperado. Estaba desprevenido e impotente para luchar. La tormenta de arena giraba, oscureciendo el cielo y la tierra. No sabía si Lara lo había visto. Solo podía quedarse allí mientras Ryan la ayudaba con cuidado, herida, a subir al SUV del desierto. Y cuando ella estaba demasiado débil para moverse, Ryan la cargó en el vehículo. Oliver siguió el coche hasta el hospital. Su profesora lo detuvo en la puerta, pero Ryan entró con ella en la sala de examen. El viento había cesado y la arena que giraba se había asentado. Oliver escupió un puñado de arena y encendió un cigarrillo. Uno tras otro, sin poder detenerse. Preguntó a su profesora, desesperado y ansioso. ¿Ha estado con usted todo este tiempo? Sí, trabaja duro y soporta mucho. Su salud no es buena. Oliver tragó el nudo en su garganta. ¿Ha sido muy difícil para ella últimamente? La profesora levantó un poco la barbilla, mirándolo con indiferencia. No ha estado muy feliz. Los ojos inyectados en sangre de Oliver daban miedo. Tal vez era por la tormenta de arena. Profesora, ¿aún tengo una oportunidad? ¿Me perdonará? De verdad lo lamento. Sé que me equivoqué, parecía un niño indefenso y perdido. Este hombre alto se aferraba a la manga de la profesora al borde de las lágrimas. No lo sé, dijo la profesora con calma, pero respeto las decisiones de Lara. Profesora, por favor, ayúdeme. No lo hará. Pero la profesora negó con la cabeza y apartó suavemente su mano. Lara es mi estudiante más destacada. La conozco bien, y en temperamento se parece mucho a mí. En este asunto nadie puede ayudarlo. Pero profesora, hemos estado juntos 10 años, ¿y qué? La sonrisa de la profesora era tenue, pero despectiva. Mi exmarido y yo estuvimos casados 15 años. Él incluso se arrodilló y lloró rogándome. Pero un hombre manchado es un hombre manchado, no diferente de la basura. Oliver, las mujeres no somos recolectoras de basura. Si realmente te importan esos 10 años juntos, entonces déjala ir. Capítulo 18. El día que finalizamos nuestro divorcio, al salir del registro civil, Oliver me llamó. Esposa, su expresión estaba vacía, todo su ser carecía de energía. Esos ojos que alguna vez fueron apasionados y audaces, ahora estaban apagados y sin vida. Llámame por mi nombre.
Lara.
Oliver se acercó, deteniéndose frente a mí. Me miró con intensidad y, por un momento, un leve destello de esperanza pareció iluminar sus ojos apagados. Podemos seguir siendo amigos, ¿verdad? Como hace 10 años, empezamos como amigos, negué con la cabeza. No, no podemos. Pero Lara, lo interrumpí con firmeza. Oliver, hace 5 años te lo dije, el perdón no existe en mi vocabulario. En ese entonces hice un sacrificio y retrocedí por ti. Y 5 años después obtuve lo que merecía. Entonces no tenemos que ser amigos. Podemos empezar como extraños. Por favor, dame solo una oportunidad más. Te juro, Oliver, ¿aún no me conoces? En tus ojos soy simplemente Lara la ordinaria, pero en realidad soy increíblemente terca. Oliver, de repente, me miró, sus ojos se abrieron de par en par. ¿Esa noche escuchaste todo? Asentí con calma. Sí, lo escuché todo. El leve destello en sus ojos se rompió como hielo fracturado. Pero Lara, te llevaste tu collar de perlas favorito y nuestro anillo de bodas contigo, no puedes dejar ir lo que teníamos. Era como un hombre ahogándose, aferrándose desesperadamente a la última esperanza. Pero aplasté su última ilusión. Los quemé todos en el taller de joyería. Oliver, si buscas nuestros supuestos sentimientos del pasado, puedes probar en las alcantarillas. Sin decir nada más, me di la vuelta y seguí caminando. Pero Oliver rápidamente me alcanzó. Vas a estar con Ryan, ¿no? Pero Lara, todos los hombres son iguales. Solo te persigue porque aún no te tiene. Una vez que te tenga, cometerá los mismos errores que yo. ¿Y qué? Lo miré, mi mirada tranquila. Después de tener a alguien tan terrible como tú como ex, ¿qué más queda por temer? ¿Te vas a casar con él? Pensaré cuidadosamente sobre el matrimonio, pero todavía soy joven. Puedo tener tanto una carrera que amo como a un hombre que amo. ¿Lo amas? Le sonreí. ¿Y eso qué tiene que ver contigo? Capítulo 19. Mientras esperaba a que el semáforo cambiara a verde, vi un coche estacionado al borde de la carretera. En el frío de principios de primavera, Ryan estaba apoyado contra él, vistiendo una chaqueta negra. Las ramas desnudas sobre él empezaban a brotar con pequeños retoños amarillos. El viento todavía traía un rastro de frío. Él estaba allí, quieto, pero su mirada se dirigía con frecuencia hacia donde yo estaba, buscándome. Y cuando finalmente me vio, se enderezó de inmediato, justo cuando el sol atravesó las nubes. Un suave halo de luz cayó en sus ojos.
Lara.
Comenzó a caminar hacia mí con pasos largos y decididos. Cuando el semáforo cambió a verde y la multitud detenida comenzó a moverse de nuevo, el cruce peatonal se llenó de vida con movimientos rítmicos. Pero yo permanecí inmóvil. Sonriendo levemente, incliné la cabeza, observándolo. Vi cómo caminaba hacia mí con pasos firmes, como una escena temporal de una película.
Lara.
Por fin llegó a mi lado, mirándome con ojos nerviosos. Parecía inquieto, su respiración irregular. El viento frío había teñido sus orejas de un leve tono rojo. Levanté la vista hacia él y, por un momento, recordé al chico rebelde que había sido hace tantos años. De repente comprendí que todos esos encuentros casuales camino a la escuela no habían sido coincidencias. Que cada mirada fugaz, cada momento en que nuestras miradas se cruzaron, no había sido un accidente. No podía imaginar cómo se había sentido en aquel entonces, viéndome dedicarme completamente a Oliver. Cuánto debió ocultar detrás de su última mirada y esa última sonrisa cuando elegí a Oliver en lugar de a él. Pero el amor nunca ha sido racional. En aquel entonces, Ryan y Oliver eran polos opuestos. Y en ese momento, como una chica sensible y emocional, naturalmente me sentía atraída por Oliver, quien sabía cómo hacerme reír. Parecía inevitable. No me arrepiento del pasado. Pero ahora he decidido mirar hacia adelante. ¿Has estado esperando mucho tiempo?, le pregunté con una sonrisa. No mucho, el tiempo justo. Su mano, que colgaba suelta a su lado, lentamente se levantó como si quisiera tomar la mía, pero vaciló.
Ryan.
Dije su nombre y di un ligero pisotón. El viento de primavera en Beijing es tan frío. ¿Tienes frío? Sí, mis manos están congeladas. Extendí mis manos, mostrándole mis dedos enrojecidos por el frío. Ryan no dijo nada, pero tomó mis manos con suavidad. Frotó mis dedos helados hasta que volvieron a calentarse, luego naturalmente guardó mi mano en el bolsillo de su abrigo. El semáforo volvió a cambiar a verde. La multitud comenzó a moverse, vibrante y viva. Con su mano en la mía, Ryan me llevó al flujo de gente. La primavera había llegado, su calidez crecía constantemente. Era la estación perfecta para enamorarse. Capítulo 20. Oliver. Lara finalmente se casó con Ryan. En la boda asistieron muchos de sus antiguos compañeros de clase, amigos y maestros. Incluso más que cuando Oliver se había casado con ella. La boda no fue tan extravagante ni grandiosa como la suya. Pero fue innegablemente cálida y llena de felicidad. Oliver vio toda la boda a través de las redes sociales de sus amigos. Todos a su alrededor le decían que lo superara, que dejara de mirar. La pareja estaba profundamente enamorada, su afecto era dulce como la miel. ¿Por qué torturarse viéndolo? Pero Oliver no podía detenerse. Era como un ladrón escondido en las sombras, espiando. Sin saber si buscaba grietas en su felicidad o simplemente quería echar sal en sus propias heridas. No durmió en toda la noche. Pasó horas revisando cada foto, cada vídeo de ellos juntos. Lara seguía siendo asombrosamente hermosa. Los años de viajes, soportando dificultades y trabajando en condiciones difíciles, no la habían desgastado. En cambio, se veía más vibrante y saludable que nunca, como su esposa. Había oído que Ryan y Lara pasaban gran parte de esos años separados, perdiendo contacto durante meses a la vez. Oliver había esperado en secreto que Ryan, siendo hombre, eventualmente fallaría. Porque si alguien conocía los defectos de los hombres, era él. No podía creer que Ryan pudiera permanecer leal, sin resentimientos, sin un solo desliz. Incluso mandó a personas a vigilar a Ryan, esperando encontrar un error y usarlo para separarlos. Pero los años pasaron y Ryan siguió siendo tan firme como siempre, sin un solo paso en falso. La única satisfacción de Oliver era saber que Lara había rechazado las propuestas de matrimonio de Ryan varias veces. Cada vez que escuchaba esto, sentía una alegría secreta. Pero no duró mucho. Aunque Lara no aceptó de inmediato casarse con Ryan, cada vez que regresaba a Pekín, se quedaba en la casa de Ryan. Al principio, Oliver esperaba con ansia sus visitas. Le daba la oportunidad de verla desde lejos y aliviar su añoranza. Pero con el tiempo, comenzó a temer sus regresos. Porque cada noche soñaba con Lara y Ryan juntos en la cama. Oliver pensó que nunca podría olvidar esos sueños, ni siquiera en la muerte. Cuando Lara se mudó por primera vez a la casa de Ryan, no salieron en 3 días. 3 días después fueron juntos al supermercado. Ryan parecía radiante, como un hombre que tenía todo lo que quería. Y Lara, ella brillaba con una frescura, como una flor que brota después de la lluvia. Sentado en su coche, mirándolos desde lejos, Oliver sintió una desesperación tan profunda que casi deseó morir. En el segundo año del matrimonio de Lara y Ryan, ella quedó embarazada. Ese mismo año, después de una noche de borrachera, Oliver fue brutalmente atacado por Zoe en un acto de venganza calculado. Los últimos años había vivido como un fantasma, descargando toda su ira en Zoe. Al principio, ella lo soportó, aterrorizada de él. Pero finalmente se quebró y luchó, dispuesta a hundirlo con ella. Sobrevivió al ataque, pero el destino tenía sus propios planes. Mientras el vientre de Lara crecía con el hijo de Ryan, Oliver recibió un diagnóstico devastador de su médico. Pasaría el resto de su vida en una silla de ruedas y había perdido la capacidad de tener hijos para siempre. Oliver pensó en las palabras burlonas de Ryan. Ese bastardo tenía razón después de todo. Había traicionado a la mujer que más amaba. Destruyó al único hijo que tendría. Y ahora había perdido a Lara para siempre, sin esperanza de formar una familia otra vez.
Era karma.
Y los largos y desesperados años que se extendían frente a él los pasaría pagando por sus pecados, atrapado en la miseria de su propia creación. Un castigo sin escape.